So what if I told you we have a team who's already played a game and all the market seems to be doing is betting them? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a game that you should be concentrating on? Well, we're going to talk about that along with at least 5 other games, all sorts of best bets coming up as we are off and running college football week. Number 1 is here, and we've got you covered at wagertalk.com with the college football kickoff show, and we've got some of the best available here to break down a few games in which you are going to want to hear what they have to say before placing any wagers on the games here this week. As we welcome back in the pen, Mr. Ralph Michaels in the house, and Drew Martin Betts is here. And Ralph, I'm going to come to you here quick because we were just talking about this game coming up and about this team who we've already seen play, in fact. And they were a pretty sizable dog there against Vanderbilt, that being Hawaii. But now they've already got a game under their belt. They lost, but now they got to take on Stanford, and it appears the public, or somebody in the marketplace, rather, really does like this Hawaii team, even though they have one game under their belt.
Well, Joe, let me say this. This game is not on my list because a game under their belt. And guys, make sure to check the TNA segment of Bet on It this week. I broke this down in more situations. But Joe and Drew, does this surprise you? Since 2008, when a team has a game under their belt playing the second game of a season versus a team playing the season opener, the team playing their second game is 161, 193, and 5 against the spread. That is only 45%. So myth busted as far as betting a team with a game under your belt is a positive. But for me, this Hawaii team is a positive. Why? Because it passed my eye test. Watching them do what they did. Remember, Hawaii last year was a train wreck going into spring camp. They returned 7 starters, 5 on offense, 2 on defense. They had a head coach. They let him go. They bring in Timmy Chang, my apologies. What does he do? He starts the season with the offense that was implemented. He then, after 4 or 5 games, says, screw this. Let's go to the run and shoot, which made Hawaii what it is. They covered 6 of their last 7 games last year, and then you saw what they did against Vanderbilt. An experienced quarterback, a much improved defense, players buying into the system with 9 returning starters on defense. They outgained Vanderbilt, and they deserve to actually win that game. So, to me, they passed the eye test. In Stanford, what do we have? We have a team that last year returned 16 starters and a quarterback. What do? They go 3-9. They get outgained by 128 yards per game. And lo and behold, everyone goes into the transfer portal, and they return 6 starters this year with a new head coach, now having to play on the road at Hawaii. Oh, yeah, and by the way, they have a road game at USC on deck. Now, one thing I want to mention, in the summer, this line opened up Stanford -10. Then it was Stanford -7. And people might say, well, how can you bet a game that was 7 last week and now it's 3.5? Folks, it is so much different when you're betting a team in game 1 of a season or game 2 of the season if they passed your eye test. If you are analyzing 2 teams and your number is still a fair number to bet at the current number, I'm not afraid to play against the line move from the summer line. And I'll equate it to this, Joe, and throw it back to you. If you did not buy Apple stock with an IPO price of $22, should you never have bought Apple stock the rest of your life? No. If there's value at the time you want to take advantage, take advantage.
And I think, Ralph, you're absolutely correct. And I think there is some value in getting a chance to use the eyeball test and watching a team pass it for a week as opposed to not to. So those numbers are fantastic, Ralph, that you broke down for us. And by the way, guys, if you are new here to Wager Talk, content like this all season long available. All you have to do, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. We've got plenty of college football videos here and game previews you're going to want to hear. And Drew, I want to send it over to you here because I love this game. Questions at both of these teams, really, that being Virginia taking on Tennessee, as I believe we're past the Hendon Hooker phase now in Tennessee, right? We got Joe Milton, but he might be 40 as well. So tell me what you're thinking about Virginia and Tennessee here in this matchup.
Joe, you bring up Hendon Hooker, and that's actually the angle I'm attacking in this one. Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific here, getting us going on the Saturday card. Nissan Stadium, Nashville, Tennessee. Going to be, a contingent of volunteer fans, I'm sure, filling up the stands. But actually, I'm attacking this from a totals perspective, Joe. I like going after it, using pace of play metrics, what I project out into the week one college football for this season. I love looking into kind of offensive coordinators, offensive systems, and how they match up with their quarterback. And talking about Tennessee here, we get Josh Heupel. We know what he likes to do, run tempo, kind of the system of spread the field, put your best athletes out in space, and, pretty much, hey, defense, try to get these guys to the ground. What do you need to do that very, very well? You need an accurate quarterback, and that's exactly what Hendon Hooker was. He was perfect for this system. Of course, now he's going to the NFL, and number one ranked Tennessee offense from last year, Joe, 46 points per game and yards per game, up over 500 yards per game on average. And now asking Joe Milton to kind of fill that gap. And look, Joe Milton, arm talent in terms of arm strength, yes, it's there. He can put his knee on the 50, throw the ball through the uprights. It's good for kind of videos and marketing in that sense. But the accuracy at times throughout his career, whether his stop in Tennessee or Michigan before that, he struggled here, Joe. And I actually think that is a big concern for this Tennessee offense going forward. Now, are they going to make a bowl game? Are they going to be a good team? Yes. But are they going to be as good of an offense as last season? I actually don't think so, Joe. And going up against Virginia, they have their own kind of question marks on offense. Bringing in a new offensive coordinator from the NFL. We're getting a total here, flirting with 60. It's to be 56 now, bought down from 58. Some of that being my money, Joe. I wouldn't be surprised if, this game finishes, I don't know, let's call it, 30-10, something like that, where Tennessee kind of gets out in front, yet doesn't kind of blow the doors off of Virginia. So asking these two teams to total 56 week one college football, I don't think we get there. I like the under at Virginia, Tennessee.
As we welcome in Rob Vino in a situation where we got a whole new look here in Louisville, don't we? It's not the same old in Louisville. So what do we do with this game here, Rob Vino? Georgia Tech, Louisville on Friday night. How you looking at this one?
Well, we hear an awful lot, Joe, about the new clock rules. And as we look down the openers and where these games have moved to totals-wise, it seems like everybody wants to jump on unders. But I think I'm getting a good number here. I mean, you give me 48.5 in a Jeff Brom game with good weather projected, then you could sign me up for over. That's the way I like this one. Again, it seems like the new clock rules and maybe the new coaching staff moves here have gotten people to go ahead and play under early, but I just don't agree. I got a different vision, different angle on this contest. Let's start with Louisville right off the bat. We know Jeff Brom is going to bring his air raid system into Louisville. He's implemented it. What the benefit that he has is that he's got one of his ex-Purdue quarterbacks, Jack Plummer, who transferred out of Cal to be here. He's got him to run this thing. Plummer knows the offense inside and out. So he can direct this thing extremely well, almost like a coach on the field in a first game out of the box where a lot of new quarterbacks with new systems would not be able to. I like that angle for Louisville here. If you just look at their skill position talent and what they can bring to scoreboard production, they've got quite a bit. And better yet, the offensive line has 150 collective career starts. Plummer's likely to be back there untouched. The running game's likely to have a lot of room to run against a Georgia Tech defense that gave up a lot of rushing yardage last year. I think the Cardinals are well positioned right out of the chute to be a high-scoring team. So we like that angle. While the offense figures to be a huge asset for Louisville, the defensive front seven, which was gutted by personnel losses, likely that's the weak link here. And, last season they had this great pass rush, 49 sacks for Louisville. 32 and a half of those 49 are gone. And one of the reasons why you have to like Georgia Tech's ability to pressure them is their new offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. Buster Faulkner spent the last 3 seasons under Todd Monken as an analyst at Georgia. Knows the air raid. He's going to increase, brought in actually to increase the passing game here so Georgia Tech can get some points on the board. That was their weakness last season. He teams up with co-offensive coordinator Chris Weinke, of course, known as a quarterback's guru. In this particular instance, he helps out as well. They both kind of have the same vision where the aerial attack is concerned. They're going to attack all 3 levels here. I think Louisville might be in for a bit of a surprise, as well as some bettors, Joe, who maybe think that Georgia Tech's going to be the same old stagnant offense that wants to run, then throws the ball into the ground, 3 downs and out. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I'm of the belief that Georgia Tech has a little something up their offensive sleeve.
And over is the way Rob is looking at this game here. New quarterbacks, some new coaches, a lot of fun here in college football. And we still have 3 best bets here coming up for you guys from Ralph, from Drew, from Rob Vino. 3 of the games they have circled for us with their breakdowns. Just a quick reminder, go ahead, hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you're new to us here. Great content all season long when it comes to college football. Game previews across the board available to you. Go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and drop us a comment below and let us know what you think the best bet of the week should be. And let's head it back to you here, Ralph. You've got a pretty good one here for us for a best bet. Tell us about it.
Color me a Kalen DeBoer fan. I love the guy. I loved him when he was an OC at Fresno State, an OC at Indiana, back at the head coach at Fresno State, and what he did at Washington last year as the first-year head coach of the Huskies. Now, I can understand people that would say, well, listen, Boise is this dog that always is competitive. They went 10-4 last year. They have 14 returning starters. It's Andy Avalos' 3rd year. How can you fade them? Well, one of the biggest mistakes new bettors make is when they look at returning starters and say, oh, wow, Boise's got 14 returning starters. That's pretty good. But let's compare to the last 2 years. Did you know Boise had 17 returning starters and a quarterback last year? Did you know Boise had 17 returning starters and a quarterback back 2 years ago? So there are times when 14 returning starters may be a positive. There are times when 14 returning starters are actually a negative. Last year, Bachmeier decided to transfer out after Boise got off to a bad start. They bring in Taylon Green. He does a great job as a young quarterback. And everything is based on the best running back in the conference, in Helani, in gaining a lot of yards and keeping the pressure off. The problem is this. When I look at Washington, one of their strengths is the rush defense. They have an incredible D-line. They only allowed 3.5 yards per carry. And a quarterback who had all that time last year and only got sacked 3 times in the last 6 games collectively isn't going to have that time. On the Washington side, again, you have one of the quarterbacks in Penix who's in the Heisman race. You have the best receivers on the West Coast. I know USC likes saying they're the best wide receiver core. They're not. It's the Huskies. You return 7 starters on offense, 8 on defense. And this is a Husky team that I think has Tulsa next week, at Michigan State, California, and Arizona going into a bye week against Oregon. This is a team when you're starting down a couple notches that people say USC is the best team. Washington and Oregon may or may not be. This is a statement game that you want to make in front of your fans, in front of the nation, to set the precedent for the season. I don't mind laying the 2 touchdowns with the Huskies, 14.5 at some places. I am a Husky fan this week.
All right, liking the Husky, great coach and quarterback combo there. And Ralph is all over Washington, taking on Boise State. And Drew, talk to me here about a best bet, a couple of different spots that you can look at on the card here this week. You told us about Virginia and Tennessee. Looking at the total there, what did you circle for the best bet here?
Joe, I'm going to another early kick on Saturday, and very intriguing handicap. I actually like something here totals wise again, and it's the Colorado Buffaloes and the TCU Horned Frogs, Joe. 12 noon on Fox, so national television here. And look, we get Deion Sanders coming into Colorado, pretty much turns the roster over. 50 plus new players, but bringing in his son at the quarterback position, going to have a higher caliber of athlete, in my opinion, Joe. But actually, the best decision I think he made was his offensive coordinator hire in Sean Lewis, the old head coach for Kent State. And if you followed Maction at all and followed their offense, it's very potent at times. And sure enough, the pace of play was there. Number 6 in terms of seconds in between each snap in the entire country. They go very, very fast. At least they did last year. Sean Lewis, everything I've read, looks to do the same here in Colorado. So there's not going to be a whole lot of clock running when they have the ball. And then you look at TCU, and of course, national championship contender last season. They lost a lot of talent from their team. However, looking at the quarterback position, I love looking at quarterback and coordinator and that kind of combo and projecting how it's going to do early in the college football season. We get a Sonny Dykes coach team with an offensive coordinator of Kendall Briles. He's another guy that runs really up tempo, just 23 seconds in between snaps last season at Arkansas. That was number 18 in the country. So 2 top 20 projected pace of play offenses. And then sure enough, TCU, their quarterback, Max Duggan, yes, he did go to the NFL, very good college quarterback, tough kid. But Chandler Morris, if you remember right, he actually beat him out for the starting quarterback position last year, then got injured. And that's what let Max Duggan kind of do what he did in that great run as a TCU quarterback all the way to the national championship. But what I'm getting at is I don't know that it will be that big of a drop off considering he beat him out last season. So getting that combination, offensive coordinator Kendall Briles, we get Chandler Morris, who I believe is going to be at least a decent college quarterback, maybe even very good. And then on the Colorado side of things, pace of play should be there with Sean Lewis, Deion Sanders' son. Everybody projecting him to be a good college quarterback here. Joe, 63 looks to be the low watermark as the total at the Wager Talk Live odds screen. It's been pushed up a little bit. Some of that being my money, Joe. I actually think they go up and down the field here. I think we get a big score. This could get really, in the 40s for each team. I think TCU runs away with it. But even more, Joe, I like up and over the total of 63 in TCU in Colorado.
Yeah, I think let's hope Deion is going to keep some receipts here after this year, Drew, because I think it's going to be a rough one for Deion in Colorado early on. But that's all right. What goes around comes around. Points is what Drew is looking for. Some great totals there. Now, Rob Vino, interestingly enough, you've cut a game in half for us here for a best bet. You're going to look at a first half here, and you know how much I love that. So tell me, which one of these games did you look at in the first half?
Well, this first week is kind of crazy, Joe. You got 19 teams that are favored by 3 touchdowns or more. A lot of those Power 5 teams, if not all of them, Power 5 teams. And your first inclination always as a handicapper week 1 is to look ahead and see what they have in week 2. Are they going to be vanilla? Will they show a little something? Do they have any motivation whatsoever to blow the opponent out, or is the opponent live until the final gun? Here, I'm going to play the East Carolina-Michigan game for motivational reasons and for fundamental reasons. Obviously, to me, my line of thinking is that the Michigan emotional and motivational factor figures to be applicable here. Jim Harbaugh and this self-imposed penalty, 3 games that we've heard about all summer long, he's going to use that as a rallying cry for his team. And when you get a group of 18 to 22-year-olds all fired up for their head coach, and they're at home in their season opener, and they're tabbed as a serious threat for a national championship, then I think what you get coming out of that tunnel is a fired up team in Michigan. East Carolina probably wishes that they could have walked in here quiet into a complacent Michigan background, and they didn't have to see the Wolverines with their feathers ruffled, so to speak, heading in. That's not the case. I think emotion plays a big play right off the bat here for Michigan. And if you take that and go ahead and look at the way these two teams match up, it's really no contest. The first few series of the game in front of that crowd at the Big House, in front of against a fired up defensive unit, I don't think all goes well for ECU in that scenario. If I look at Michigan's offense real quick, it's probably too much for East Carolina to handle here, especially if Michigan comes in ready to play. East Carolina's got to account for a multitude of things. They got to account for a dual option quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who's shown us with his legs, with his arm, he'll beat either way, especially if you're an inferior opponent. He'll beat you with his arm. Blake Corum, back healthy, one of the elite running backs in the country. 3 of the top 4 wide receivers back. The offensive line has 4 of the 5 starters back. They'll not only run the ball, but they'll run it in chunks here. They don't have a look-ahead game to kind of say, well, we better play close to the vest here. I'm not saying that they're going to open up the playbook, but they won't be one of these teams that plays it totally vanilla because they have a big conference game on deck or something. I prefer to play the first half here just because if Michigan builds an insurmountable lead, not only could they, but they should pull starters, which leaves the back door open a little bit for ECU full game-wise. And I think I'd rather play the first half because they're an experienced, cohesive team. So I think it all works here. The number's 21.5. I could foresee something like 28-0, 28-3. At halftime, I'm going to play Michigan that way. First half minus 21.5.
There you've got it. 3 best bets, 3 big game breakdowns. And we're not done there, though. Great news for you guys. If you have any questions about any of these games or any games for that matter on the card, go ahead, just drop them here in the comment section. All 3 of these guys are going to be looking and answering questions all week long leading up to kickoff. So if you have a question about one of these games or any game on the card, go ahead, drop that in the comment section, whether it be Ralph Michaels, Drew Martin, or Rob Vino. They will go ahead and answer you back. And if it's more game previews that you're looking for, if there is a certain game that you are looking to hear the breakdown on, have no fear. We've got it here. Go ahead and click on the video on your screen right now, and you'll get all of the Wager Talk game videos coming up here in week 1 of college football.